This is Tips for Travelers. Inspiration, advice, and tips on finding and having amazing travel experiences on both land and at sea. Get more tips on must-see and must-do travel at tipsfortravelers.com.
I'm Gary Bembridge, and this is another episode of Tips for Travelers. Today we're doing something really exciting. We're heading off to Orlando, specifically Universal Orlando, and I'm going to focus in this podcast about the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, a fantastic set of attractions in Orlando, and that's what I'm going to focus on. However, of course, because if you're going into Universal Orlando, you're not just going to go and do Harry Potter, I'm guessing. So I'm going to give you a whole lot of other tips around how you can make the most of your time there and see as many things as you possibly can do. I'm going to share tips on how to get and see both Diagon Alley and Hogsmeade and the rest of Universal. And what's very important to note is a couple of things. If you want to go and see the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, you actually have to visit two parks. So you've got Universal Studios, which has got Diagon Alley, and the Islands of Adventure next door is where Hogsmeade is. And you travel on the Hogswood Express to get between them, which is really cool. It's really great. However, it does mean that you have to pay two entrance fees. So a one-day two-park ticket will cost at least $150. Now, it depends a little bit on the season and that kind of stuff, but you have to assume that it's going to cost about $150 US. So it's a relatively expensive day, so you need to make sure that you're going to get the absolute most out of it, and that's what I'm going to try and do in this podcast. You are going to be pressed for time, so what I suggest you do, though, is you look at buying a fast pass. Now, most of the Harry Potter rides, certainly at the time of recording this podcast, and I suspect for a very long time, do not let you use fast pass. But it will mean, if you get a fast pass, that you can make the rest of, the most of the rest of the parks that you're going to be seeing, and you do want to get your money's worth. So take a look at getting a fast pass, and I'll talk a little bit later when we get into the Harry Potter rides about little tips and tips and tricks how you can get onto the rides faster. But planning is going to be absolutely key, and that's what I'm going to do here. I've got about 9 tips or so that's going to help you see Universal and the Wizarding World in the best way possible. I'm also going to make this podcast a spoiler-free one because I don't want to ruin the experience by telling you too much about what happens on the rides, because I think that would be a little bit unfortunate. Let me give you some overall observations. I'll give you a very brief history of Universal. It's a fantastic time. I had a brilliant time at Universal Orlando. I hadn't been for, probably 15 or more years, probably even longer than that. And it's really developed. It's really brilliant. It's fantastic. I had a great time. And what I also like about Universal Orlando, the whole resort and the parks, is it's a much more adult experience than Disney parks. And in my view, there's much more to do. It's clearly catered for me as an adult, where I'm sure, if you're a kid, Disney parks, even the Disney Hollywood Studios park and stuff, for me, the Universal Orlando was much more about adults. It's probably more of a teen adults thing. Universal Studios Park, it actually opened back in 1990, so it's well over a quarter of a century old. And it was originally opened as a competitor to what was called then Disney MGM Studios, which is now called Disney Hollywood Studios. The Island of Adventure Park at Universal was opened 9 years later in 1999. And at the same time, what they did is they then created what's known as City Walk. Now, City Walk had been very successful in Los Angeles, and so they created this whole City Walk, which is basically an entertainment area with restaurants and all that kind of stuff. And they also opened a couple of hotels, and the entire complex, so that's City Walk, the hotels, the Universal Studios, and Islands of Adventure, is called the Universal Orlando Resort. So if you're wondering what the differences are, so Universal Orlando Resort encompasses everything. They've gone through a whole lot of slogans over the years, and I thought they were quite interesting because it gives a sense of what they were trying to do. So they used to have a slogan which was called See the Stars, Ride the Movies, which was up until about 1998. Then they had for about another 8 years, No One Makes Believe Like We Do. Then they had just Ride the Movies. Then they had Jump Into the Action. And now they, certainly at the time of recording this, they seem to be focusing on Vacation Like You Mean It. And it's really great. It's a fantastic thing to do. So let me give you a couple of need-to-knows, then I'll get you into advice and tips, etc. So as I already mentioned, Universal Orlando Resort consists of 2 parks. Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure. City Walk, which is shops and restaurants, particularly focused on nighttime entertainment. And there are at least 5 Loews hotels. So Loews is their partner. There's the Loews Portofino Bay Hotel, Hard Rock Hotel, the Loews Royal Pacific Resort, Cabana Bay Beach Resort, and the Loews Sapphire Falls Resorts. And of course, they're all designed to cater for different, sort of audiences and prices, etc. Universal Orlando Resort is actually owned by NBC Universal and its various affiliates. So that, it's very much owned and connected to, television and movies. It's the second largest resort in Greater Orlando after Walt Disney World. So it's a huge, huge complex. And basically what they do within the park, there's a couple of areas and they're themed around things. So let's talk first of all about Universal Studios. So Universal Studios has a number of themed areas and attractions, and they're really based on film. So you've got a Hollywood area, Production Central, New York, San Francisco, Diagon Alley and London, World Expo in Springfield, and Woody Woodpecker's Kid Zone. So what's important to note is they're not just Universal films, because anyone who's a big Harry Potter fan will know that Universal is not Harry Potter, that's Warner Brothers. So then in Islands of Adventure, they have 7 distinct islands, and they're themed to different forms of adventure. So you've got Marvel Superhero Island, Toon Lagoon, Jurassic Park, the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, which is where Hogsmeade is, the Lost Continent, and Zeus Landing. And it's always evolving. I mean, there's new rides opening, whether it's King Kong, revamping the Hulk. So it's constantly changing, constantly evolving, updating. And that's what also makes it a great thing to do. So in terms of general advice, if you can possibly do so, you'd want to go out of school holidays. Obviously, in the school holiday period, it gets really, really packed. In terms of getting there, you need to pretty much drive there. It's the easiest to do. So if you're staying in Orlando, driving there, they've got massive big car parks. It's pretty well organized, though you do have to pay to park. It's pretty expensive. I've already mentioned, the price to get in is quite expensive. And of course, once you're there, you're a bit of a captive audience in terms of food, etc. So, as I've mentioned, you have to pay for parking. These car parks are enormous, so do make a note of where you can park. And I'll talk a little bit later about the app. The app's really good, and one of the things they do in the app is they let you take a picture and make a note of where you've parked. But seriously, make sure you know where you've parked, because if you can't remember where you've parked, there's a lot of walking and looking to find your car. It's a long way to walk, even from the car park into the park, and there's a lot of walking, so you need to come prepared. So make sure you've got shoes that you can walk in and be ready and prepared to walk. And also make sure that you're ready for the hot weather, because Orlando is hot and can be very humid. So keep hydrating, make sure you're wearing sunscreen, a hat, that kind of stuff. So really do prepare for the hot weather. So let's get into the must see and do, and all my tips for getting the most out of Universal. I've tried to group them sort of in about 10 tips or so, and I might end up having a few more because there's a couple of sort of sub tips. So my first tip is buy a 2-park pass. Now the reason you need the 2-park pass, as I mentioned, you need to see all of the Potter attractions, and they are spread across 2 parks. So what you do, and I would recommend, is buy those in advance, and the website is universalorlando.com, and of course I'll put links in the show notes to this, and of course on my website, Tips for Travelers. You just search for Universal Orlando and you'll find it. So universalorlando.com, I would really suggest you buy it in advance. They will always have the best deals or promotions. And then all you have to do is collect your tickets from machines at the entrance to save time. And you just take the code and stuff, you tap the code in and you get your tickets. It's definitely pretty smooth and fast, and then you have loads of people there to help if you're struggling on the machines. My second tip is, if you can push it a little bit further budget-wise, buy the Fast Pass. It will help you make the most of your day. It doesn't apply to the actual Harry Potter rides. We have to line up and it can take up to an hour or more. But even one of the things you can do if you don't use the Fast Pass is most of the rides have single rider lanes. So the idea is that, they will then, if there's a carriage or whatever on the ride, you've got one seat or something, they will just pop people in. The problem, of course, is everyone thinks it's going to be a faster way to get on the ride. So actually, on a lot of the Harry Potter rides, particularly as the day progresses, the single rider line is as long as the grouped line. There's the normal line. So, you need to play a little, look just how long the single rider line is. And in fact, at one point when I went on one of the rides at Gringotts Bank, the single rider line was longer than the other line. It would have been quicker joining the other line. So if you're genuinely a single rider, the single rider line is a good thing to do. Or if you don't mind getting split up from the people you're traveling with and you don't want to share the rides as a joint experience, the single rider line on Harry Potter is certainly worth looking at. My tip number 3, in terms of the order you do it, I would actually start at Universal Studios and the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, Diagon Alley. Be at the park ready before 9 o'clock in the morning. And bear in mind, you've got to park, get out your car, walk there. And so, you probably want to get there at 8 or even, 8:30, something like that. Be there when the park opens at 9 o'clock and make a beeline for the Wizarding World, which is at the rear of the park. So I would literally get in, just look at the little map you can grab, head straight to the Wizarding World at the back of the park, and that's because it'll be the quietest. I would do the Escape from Gringotts ride there straight away. The minute you get there, don't even explore Diagon Alley, just get on the Escape from Gringotts ride. It's a fantastic ride. It really is brilliant. It's one of those sort of 4Ds. There's a little bit of a roller coaster element to it at the beginning, but it's basically a 4D ride. It's fantastic. You can't take any loose stuff, phones or bags and stuff, but they have lockers where you can leave things. So you need to do that before you join the ride. But, go straight in, go to the Escape the Gringotts ride. Once you come out from that ride, because you probably won't have waited very long, you can then explore Diagon Alley. You can look at all the shops. You can buy your wand if you want it. There's some great shops there, and all those of you who are Harry Potter fans will recognise many of the shops that, of course, are in the books that are supposed to be in Diagon Alley. That's probably going to take you until late morning, and then you leave. And by the way, also what I should mention, if you are hungry, you've got the Leaky Cauldron here. You've got Florian Fortescue's ice cream parlour. You've got Ollivander's, which of course is wands. Loads of people buy wands. You just see loads of people around with wands. So basically it's going to be sort of mid to late morning. I would then come out of there. You can check out the night bus. The night bus is just parked outside there. You can pose and have your picture taken with the conductor. Then head into King's Cross, which is right bang there. And you catch the Hogwarts Express to Hogsmeade late morning. Now, if you've got the fast pass, this is one thing that you can use the fast pass on, and it really will speed up your time getting between the two parks, because there can be quite a long queue. People moving between the two parks. Even though late morning, it shouldn't be too bad. But use your fast pass. It's a great experience. I'm not going to tell you about it. It's very well done. It's brilliant. But you basically ride on the Hogwarts Express to Hogsmeade. You're going to get there. It's going to be about lunchtime. What I also recommend is you can have a little look around Hogsmeade. Again, it's very well done. You can have something to eat at Hog's Head or the Three Broomsticks. I would strongly recommend that you try butterbeer. Butterbeer, of course, fans of the book will know, is something that Harry Potter and his friends, when they go into Hogsmeade, they have butterbeer. It's great. It tastes like ice cream. It's very yummy. I really liked butterbeer, actually. My 6th tip is do the rides. Now, what I would recommend is do the Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey ride. This time of day, you're going to have to wait up to 45 minutes to an hour, but it's really worth doing. It's the one that goes through the castle and gives you real insight into Harry Potter. It's a real must-do ride. There's then a couple of roller coasters as well. Kids, or if you're with kids, you can do the smaller roller coaster, the Flight of the Hippogriff. And if you're brave, and I think you have to be really brave, is you can do the very scary looking Dragon Challenge. These are 2 tracks and they are really huge, big turns and twists, and it looks absolutely terrifying. I'm not a big roller coaster fan. I didn't do it. I must say the other rides are fine. Don't be scared of the other rides, even if you don't like roller coasters. So that's going to take you quite a bit of time. And then my tip number 7 is I would then spend the rest of the afternoon in the Islands of Adventure, and I would focus on working your way around the park in a circle. So basically what you do, you come out of Hog's Head and you sort of head to the right, and you basically keep walking around in a big circle, and you'll eventually end right back where you can catch the Hogsmeade Express. And a couple of rides that I really strongly recommend you do is the Jurassic Park River Adventure, which is quite an old ride. They've tarted it up. Again, if you've got a fast pass, you can get on that very quickly. It's a log flume kind of ride with a big plunge at the end. There's the great ride, and I don't really know how to pronounce this, but it's called Pterodon Flyers, which are these sort of, they're like a flying beast things, but you basically sit on them and they go on a track sort of above the park. They're really good fun. If you like water rides, there's the Dudley Do Right's Rip Saw Falls. This is quite a high ride. It's a water-based ride, so you get in log flumes and stuff. Really good fun. You come zooming down sort of on the falls, and probably get a bit wet. They actually have some dryers that you can go and stand in and dry off. Hong Kong ride, very popular. It's one of those 4D rides. That's brand new, opened in 2016. And one of my favorite rides is the Spider-Man 4D ride. In fact, I loved it so much I did it twice in a row. Just went bang bang, and I did it through the single rider. No, I didn't through the fast pass line. Sorry, through the fast pass line. And it's great if you've got the fast pass. All these rides you can use your fast pass on. The Spider-Man 4D ride is fantastic. It's I'm not a big roller coaster fan, but it's one of those sort of motion and 4D rides. Really good fun. If you're brave, the Hulk, which also reopened in 2016. Big roller coaster. It's great for roller coaster fans, or if not, just to watch. And you've got the Doctor Doom's Fearfall, which is one of those things, that basically sort of columns that shoots you up. Everyone's sort of sitting in chairs around and it shoots you up. So if you're a bit of an adrenaline junkie, the Hulk roller coaster and Doctor Doom's Fearfall. If you're with kids, or even not with kids, the Zeus Landing complex is really good fun. There's no straight lines in there, as you would expect from Dr. Seuss, and it's just really good fun, and you have to walk through it pretty much anyway. So my tip number 8 is you've done that thing in a circle and you're back at the Hogwarts Express. So head back on the Hogwarts Express. Again, use the fast pass. Now, by this time of day, if you don't have a fast pass, you're going to be waiting probably up to an hour or longer. So this is when you'll be really glad that you've got a fast pass. And don't forget, you can use the fast pass. I originally joined the queue, which wasn't fast pass, and suddenly realized, oh, what am I doing? I'm wasting so much time that I could be doing other things. So once you're back in the main Universal Studios, a couple of rides I would really recommend. Transformers 3D. This is absolutely brilliant. This is another one that I did back to back using the fast pass. It's a great ride. It's not that dissimilar to the Spider-Man ride, but it's really good fun, exciting, great ride. Loved it. Really good fun. Then you go to the Simpsons area. You've got the Simpsons ride, which is the old Back to the Future ride, which you can adapt to the Simpsons. Lots of stuff going around, lots of characters you can pose against, but the Simpsons ride is really good. If you're very brave, you've got the Rocket roller coaster. Now, based on time left, there's a couple of other things that you may want to do. So if you're happy to keep going into the evening, you could do the updated ET ride. I mean, it is feeling a little bit dated. It feels actually very tame and dated versus the 3D and 4D rides, but it's kind of such a classic ride. Despicable Me is really good fun. That's I think it's is it 3D or 4D? I can never remember which one it is now. But it's basically you sit in these seats together and the seats move, and it's a massive big screen. It's really funny. It's really good fun. And also Shrek 4D. You're probably going to struggle to fit all of these in because time will be ticking on. But those are what I would really recommend. Transformers 3D, Simpsons, and if you're brave, do the Rocket roller coaster, and then Despicable Me and Shrek 4D. My ninth tip, and I alluded to a little bit earlier, is the app. Now, the app is really, really good. So just go onto whether you're on, an iPhone, sort of, or an Android or whatever, just search for the Universal Studios Florida app. The app's fantastic. So basically, before you go, you can go through it all and you can highlight, rides that are your favorite. And what's great about the app is during the day, it will tell you what the wait times at each of the rides are. So you can sort of have a look and see whether it's worth joining a ride or, perhaps stopping for something to eat or whatever. As I mentioned, you can also put on other things like, where you parked your car and stuff. But the app's really, really good. It tells you about the rides. It's got lots of help in. It's a brilliant, brilliant app, and it's completely free. So in terms of my tip number 10, it's going to be mid-evening to later in the evening. It's time to probably head home. You're going to be tired. You're going to be poorer, but you're going to be really energized. And one of the things you probably want to do, which I really enjoyed, is just hang out and City Walk for a while. They've got lots of things to eat. You've got they've got an informal food court where you've got like Panda, you've got hamburgers, pizzas. Then you've got lots of places like Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville, Bubba Gump Shrimp. You've even got shows going on like Blue Man Group and stuff. So it's also a great place just to hang out, have something to eat. Now, there are some key rides and shows that you'll have missed, but what I've said is, focus on Harry Potter, which is what I've recommended, and focus on those other rides. There are a couple of other rides that you may be tempted to do. I would tend to avoid some of the older shows because they do feel a little bit dated. So like in Islands of Adventure, you've got shows like The Poseidon Adventure, you've got The Eighth Voyage of Sinbad. And some of these are sort of live shows, and they're great and they're fine, and probably kids would love them. But they do feel a little bit dated, and actually I would use the time on some other rides. If you're interested in other fun things, and none of those ones that I spoke about appealed, there's the Revenge of the Mummy in the Universal Studios. There's Revenge of the Mummy, which is a dark indoor roller coaster, which again, if you're a adrenaline junkie, is great. You've got Men in Black Alien Attack, which is really good fun, where you go around with little lasers. Again, it's a ride. You've got Terminator 2 3D, which is really good. I didn't see it on this time, but I've seen it before. And you've got the show Fear Factor Live. So as you can see, there's quite a lot of things that you could do. So if some of the things that I've suggested, like at Universal, I've said Transformers 3D, The Simpsons, the the Rocket Roller Coaster, things like that, Despicable Me 4D. There are a couple of other things you could do, like Revenge of the Mummy, Alien Attack, but you're not going to be able to do everything, and I've tried to focus on the ones that I think are just the best, if you like. So hopefully that's been really helpful. If you want to see a little bit more, I've actually got a video that I made, a little video vlog that I made, including tips, and also showed you some of the park, and you could find that on YouTube. So if you go to youtube.com/tips for travelers, remembering always that travelers are spelled with 2 L's, and you can then, if you just then search there for Universal Orlando, you'll find my video that I've done. Also, just go to the site. If you go to my site, tipsfortravelers.com, and search Universal Orlando, you will find that video, which shows you lots of the park and talks about some of the rides. So hopefully you find that helpful. Universal Orlando, I loved. I want to go back. The more just talking about now, I just want to go back and I just want to do the rides again. As I said, a lot of the rides I just did over and over and over because they were just so fantastic. It's not a cheap day, but it's a fantastic day. I thought it was really worth the money. It's really well done. It's really good fun. There's a great atmosphere there. It's fantastic. So hopefully that's got you excited and energized to do that. If this is the first time you listen to podcasts, I really appreciate it. I'd love it if you subscribed. And if you're a subscriber or even a first time listener, I would love it, please, if you gave the podcast a rating and left some comments, some feedback or review. It helps enormously, help me improve the podcast, but also does help the podcast show up better in search and stuff on all the different podcast sites, and of course helps more people find it, and that pleases me enormously. To make that easy, I've done some links. So if you're an iTunes fan, just go to tipsfortravelers.com/iTunes TFT. If you're Stitcher, it's /Stitcher TFT, or TuneIn, it's TuneIn TFT, or if it's Google Play, it's Google Play TFT. But please subscribe, leave comments, leave ratings. It really is fantastic if you do that. If you'd rather not do it there, please just go to my site and drop me an email and let me know what you like. A lot of people do that as well. And let me know things you like me to do more of, and that kind of stuff really, really helps me. So if you're heading off to Universal, have a great time. I know you will. And here's to next time. It's to happy, safe, and wonderful travels.